Hey, what's up guys? This is Andrew Smersek with Combat Air Training. Today we're going to be talking about rifle setup. We're going to be talking about mostly AR-15s today, but this does apply to a lot of guns. But alright, anyways, so first things that we need to have on our rifle. I believe it should be number one, iron sights, and then a light, and then a sling. Okay, after that, red dot, and then an ambidextrous charging handle, and then a foregrip or a hand stop. Alright, I believe it should be in that order. Okay, now when we're putting this stuff on, we gotta worry about a couple different things. Number one, the position of whatever it is that we're mounting to the gun, the orientation, making sure it's facing the correct way, and then Loctiting it on as well. So first, looking at iron sights. Alright, now this one has the carry handle style, the fixed iron sights, right? Now when you mount it on, you want it all the way at the back. Okay, that's the way it was made to be. Look at the like the 03 Springfield, the M1 Garand, the M14, the M16 A1, A2, and then this is more like a A4 style since the carry handle is detachable. They always put the carry handle on these to the rear, and then if you look at all those peep sights, they're towards the rear too. Okay, if you got notch and post sights on your rifle, like what's on AKs, that's meant to be further away. The peep sight is meant to be where your eye is so close to it that rear sight basically just disappears, and then you're automatically going to line up that front sight in the center. Okay, you don't need to really see the rear sight. You want to get closer to it. Whenever I see someone struggling with iron sights at the range, I tell them just touch your nose to the charging handle, and they're able to shoot more accurately. Okay. The fixed stock, that's going to be a little bit harder, but that's the way it's meant to be. So now if we go looking at flip up sights, I prefer metal flip up sights. So like the Magpul Mbus Pros are really nice, and then Midwest Industries has some that are really nice too. I would prefer to always have the O2 sight, so that bigger hole, that bigger aperture. I want that available at all times. I mean, everyone really likes a small one, but the truth is you don't really need the small one. Okay, I use the O2 sight all the way out to 300 just fine, so you can be good with that. And O2 stands for 0 to 200 meters. Okay, it's not a night sight, it's 0 to 200. That's the way it was meant to be. Now we're looking at the flip up style, right? Again, mounted all the way to the rear. See how I got that? Okay, so that's the position. Now the orientation, it should flip up this way. See, that's what you want it to be. Thought process with this is that, well, if you go bumping into a wall or something and it's probably going to hit forward like that, the sight's not going to break off, whereas if you had it backwards, it's stiff. You may break the sight like that. Also, when you look at like the letters on it, like in this case we have an R and it is going clockwise, that means that when you turn it, you're clockwise, you're moving the point of impact to the right. Okay, so that's the way it's meant to be, that's the way you want it. Also, the flip up front sight, you want the same thing. So here I have my buddy Wes's rifle. He's got these look like the Magpul. Same thing, where that front sight should flip up that way. Okay, changing the orientation won't fuck with your zeroing method necessarily, but that's the way it's meant to be. Again, if this hits a wall or something, it's less likely to get broken off. Now those are the polymer ones. I again prefer these Magpul metal ones, the Mbus Pros. I like those a lot. Plus, you don't need a tool. You can just move. Let's see if we can see that a little bit better. You can just move this little drum down here, and you can adjust it up and down. Now, if you get the Mbus Pros, keep in mind too that there's two different profiles for the front sight. It'll come to you with a thin profile. There's different videos on how I do it, but basically you want to take that and you want to turn it so you have the wider profile. That thin profile, you know, great for target shooting or whatever. Have a nice thin front sight, but low light, like you're shining a light at the target, you're not going to see it that well. And also under stress, you want something a little bit bigger that your eye can catch on easier. All right, next, sling. There are different ways to set up your sling, right? We sell slings, by the way, so take a look at ours. The link is in the description. We just added this thing right here, which is a little elastic keeper, so you can have your sling on that, so it's not all loosey-goosey, and you just pull, and the whole thing comes undone. All right, now, setting up your sling, there's different ways to do it. I prefer to have the forward part as far forward as possible, and the rear part of the sling hanging off, for me, right-handed, hanging off the right side. This way, when the gun falls, it's going to be tight to my body, right? See how the buttstock is going to be pulled into my body. That's what I prefer. The other thing with that too is that if I go to switch shoulders, I have enough slack coming off because it's coming off the right side, okay? That's my preference. Other people do it other ways. Like Wes's rifle right here. He has it set up so that it's plugged in with a QD on the top, more towards the actual receiver, and then he has it going plugged into the what the fuck is that called? The end plate. Now he has it set up too, so he can do 2 to 1 point. Now, which sling you should use, it is up to you, but I'm going to say again, preference goes towards 2 point for a rifle. Pump shotguns 1 point, because you don't want the sling grabbing on to, you don't want to grab the sling as you pump the shotgun. That's a Jaeger thing that I learned watching his fighting shotgun DVDs. You should check that out. But now, again, we got that elastic keeper on here that we make. Pull that. All right. He has it set up so you can go 2 to 1 point, okay? So if you're gonna do it that way, then you're gonna have the rifle hanging pretty much like this, right? Where you have it at the end plate and closer to the receiver. And it is pretty decent for keeping out of the way. My big thing that when you're working the gun, you want to wear it around your neck for doing your reloads and all that, because you're not going to be having the sling in your way like this, and it won't be blocking your mag well as much too. Also, when you have the sling at the front, I find that's better for having the sling not out of the way when you go to manipulate the gun and having the sling in front of the mag well. Okay, but in this orientation, if you wanted to do it where you're able to go 2 to 1 point, you'd want the sling to hang off the end plate, okay? If you're gonna be using it at 1 point. That's just kind of the better way to do it. Yeah, you could hang it off the stock and stuff, but if you're doing a 1 point, you want to do it on the end plate. Again, I prefer, just don't fuck with that. Just use a 2 point and it'll be fine. Now, how do we mount the sling to the gun? Well, like Wes's gun here, he has QD points, right? Those are great, okay? And it's probably the best option to do. And there's other ways to mount it where it's, you know, a good piece of metal hanging on the gun that's not going to break. But a simple, cheap way that does work is just, you know, it's a disposable way. You're going to have to keep 550 cord on you and just replace it from time to time. Personally, with my guns, I haven't had the 550 cord break on anything, but you just use some 550 cord. And I've got different videos mounting a sling. Just watch any of those, and you can mount it with 550 cord right to the gun. Okay. Now, moving on to the light. I should have done that one first, okay? But yeah, iron sights, then light, then a sling. The light, if you're not using a pressure pad, if you're right-handed, you should have on the left side, okay? That way you can activate the button. All right, so right-handed, my left hand's gonna be up towards the gun. That way I can hit the button with my left hand, okay? If you're using a pressure pad, you may want to put the light on the other side, like right here. What is this one made by Unity Tactical, right?
Yes, hot button.
What?
Unity Tactical hot button.
Unity Tactical hot button right here. Unity Tactical makes some pretty Gucci, awesome shit. But he's got a Surefire mounted on the right side, and then he's got the button on the top, right? So that that just kind of can open up his field of view on the left side, and he's still able to hit the button. He's able to hit the button with either hand. Now, I personally don't really like buttons. I like just or tape switches or anything like that. I usually just like having the light on the gun and hitting the button. Although when you get into night vision and shit like that, you probably do want a tape switch or like that hot button there, so it is ambidextrous on which hand you can hit it with. Okay. Now, if you don't have the switch or the button and you just have it on the left side like that, that is fine. Okay. It is fine. It's not a big deal, because I do hear some people saying like, oh, it's on the left side and you won't be able to see anything. It's not like you're fucking blind because the light's on the left side of your gun. All right, not that big of a deal. Now, which light should we put on? Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Surefire Scouts. I know there was some that came up fucked up, but they fixed it since then. Wes, have you had a problem with your Scout light at all?
Not at all.
All right, cool. Mine's been good to go too. So we both got the 600 dual fuel, M600 dual fuel, I think it's called, and those work really good. You can mount a handheld, so like this had that cheap ass Surefire on it, and I literally just drilled through and bolted this on with the Magpul V block, and that's just a cheap Surefire light on there. Okay, and that works just fine. Not ideal, that's not a weapon mounted light. And it's not that bright either. For your rifle, you want to have a lot more candela, a lot more lumens. That way you can identify the target further away. Okay, if your light's not that bright, you know, the distance you can actually shoot that rifle at night using white light is greatly reduced. There's other stuff too, like what effect it's going to have on the target. Now, one big thing, as I see it, it is kind of popular putting like an X300 or a pistol light on a rifle. I'm gonna say it totally sucks, okay? Because with this one in particular, this is constantly getting clunked on when I don't want it to be. It could just be sitting in my vehicle and something moves around and it gets clunked on, right? Because there's nothing protecting this down here. When it's in my holster, it's protected. I don't have negligent light discharges, if you want to call it that. But when it's on the rifle, even it just hanging on my body, that gets bumped all the damn time, and it turns the light on when I don't want it to be on. So that can give away your position. And you're, you know, even if you're just like, you know, I keep this gun in my vehicle or whatever, then when you need your light, it's fucking dead. Okay, so I'm gonna say stay away from putting pistol lights on rifles. All right, I have it on this one. I gotta replace it. I'll put it on something else. I just want to put a dot on this AK. But anyways, so that's it for lights. Now make sure with all that stuff too, blue 242 Loctite, that's what you want on all your screws. Now the way I always clean the threads is I take a Q-tip with a brake cleaner and I degrease it with that, and then I just make sure that it's dry in there, and just a little drop of blue 242 Loctite keeps everything bolted onto the gun. We're gonna get into red dots now. This gun got the hollow sun on there. Now, one big thing is that where the actual optic connects to the mount, those screws need to be Loctited on there too. Okay, because that, all the time at the range when I'm helping people out, I will go and check it and the optic is loose off of the mount. You need to have that Loctited and properly torqued down. Then Loctiting the mount to the gun. Okay, so the screw that goes through there needs to get Loctited. Hugely important, and specifically with optics, that's usually where I see it fucked up the most. Okay, and don't necessarily trust the way it comes from the factory. This one we're testing right now, so make sure you're subscribed and keep watching the Palmetto State Armory budget builds to see when this actually comes loose. But this one I just left as is from the factory, so we'll see how long that lasts. But that's the thing I always see get fucked up. Now, where should the optic be? First off, make sure it's facing the correct direction. Okay, like with a scope, if you look through the scope, you should see one circle with the reticle in there, and it should be magnifying. If it looks like you're looking through a tube and there's a little crosshair at the end, flip it around, okay? Because Yeah, I've seen that wrong on guns before too. Now with a red dot, I like pushing it all the way to the front. Okay, it's not like the end of the world if you bring it further back, but I don't see an advantage to it. You know, people say, oh, it comes in your field of view more. Okay, but I don't really see an advantage to that. I think it should be towards the front. Another big thing is the magnifier. Like here we got this is a holographic optic right here, and then we got the magnifier back here. Now you want the magnifier behind the optic. Believe it or not, I saw a sheriff's deputy that had it where his magnifier was in front of the red dot, and I was like, no, there's no fucking way. I was like, that's gotta be some gizmo I just haven't heard of, right? And I walk up, I'm like, hey man, what's that in front of your red dot? He goes, it's a magnifier. I go, oh, that, you know, that needs to go behind the red dot, right? He looks at me with a straight face. You can do it either way. I prefer this way. And came back later, fix it, didn't say thank you, but you know, yeah, this needs to go behind the red dot, okay? That's a big key thing. This also is where if you mount your red dot forward, that on the receiver, you should have space for this, okay? Now, and that's also where if you don't have your iron sight mounted all the way towards the rear, you won't have space for this. So even if you don't own a magnifier yet, I would do that just to make sure that you still maintain space for the magnifier. And again, it's not wrong to have it set up that way. And I say that's the way you want to have it. Now, sometimes these optics get so big that they drift over onto this rail. Now you don't want to mount your red dot to the rail up here as much as you can. Sometimes like backup sights, well of course like the iron sight on here is mounted to the rail, but sometimes people mount like a canted red dot. Not horrible, I'd rather have it on the receiver. You just gotta think the rail can get moved and it can come loose, and then that ruins your zero. Where the way like Wes has it set up here, you know, he could completely lose his rail and his red dot's still gonna stay zeroed. Something else to think about there. Now when you're zeroing these two things, I've seen it before where people are zeroing with the magnifier and they're zeroing their dot, and then when they flip the magnifier out of the way, the zero's gone. You gotta think, you know, you got how many different pieces of glass going on here and how many lenses are in here, where you're introducing different levels of parallax. And the way I like to do it, I zero the dot without a magnifier at 200, then I flip over the magnifier, and you actually have to center the reticle in the magnifier to make sure that that's shooting properly. Then shoot it and shoot at different distances to make sure you don't have to do another adjustment on the magnifier. There's probably someone else with a better video about it. That's the way I've always done it. It works well. Now, as far as scopes go, you gotta worry about eye relief here. Now, with this too, we gotta level it, okay? If you're bringing it to a gun shop, I don't really trust gun shops to take care of my gun, because I've seen how fucked up they've been so many times. I'm like, I think it's just up to me. Like, I need to be the one to do it. It's like changing the oil on your car, right? For a long time, I was like, no, I'd pay someone to do it because they're gonna do it better, faster, and it's just easier that way. How do you know they're gonna put in the right oil? How do you know they're not gonna fuck up something underneath that, right? It's your gun, you are responsible for it, so for me, I prefer just to do it all myself. Anyways, magnified optics, you need to make sure that this is level in the optic, and then, you know, like this is, this mount, or excuse me, you make sure the optic is level in the mount. This mount pushes the scope further forward, right? And I think I could have gone with it coming back a little bit less, excuse me, going forward a little bit less than what I have, just by judging how close this turret is to the back right here. But anyways, you need to make sure that it's the proper mount. Now, one thing too that I see is people put on like Remington, like again, saw that they took it to a gun store, and the gun store was like, yeah, we'll put it on for free. They put on like Remington 700 medium rings on the scope and mounted that to an AR-10. And to get a proper sight picture, like being able to look through the scope and have everything look correct, you had to fucking beat your face against the stock to get it low enough. All right, so make sure that that mount is the correct height. And if it's like just made for an AR-15, that simplifies everything. Okay. The other big thing with this too is that, you know, if it's a fighting gun, you probably want quick release mounts. All right, it's gonna be easier. Yeah, you could keep like a tool on your gun and everything, but just investing in a really good mount is gonna be better. Plus, you can take this off, put it back on, and the zero should be pretty damn close enough to the point where you don't have to fuck with it. So that means that like with this gun, I'm actually able to work with a scope, take it off, and work with the irons, and get reps in both ways. I don't lose my zero. Maybe it's off like an inch at 100, maybe, but every time I've done it, it's been just fine. So not something you necessarily want to do, taking it off and putting it back on, but something you can do. I do it, and my zeros say it's just fine. Now, let's see. Yep, so level, well, correct mount, level, and then make sure that these screws are torqued down and Loctited correctly. Like, watch the videos from the manufacturer, read the manual, do it correctly, so that's not fucked up there. Because that's another big thing, is I'll go to zero gun and that scope moves either like that or forward and back. You can't zero the gun like that. Okay, if you're making adjustments and the zero makes no goddamn sense ever, just grab your optic and see if it's mounted properly. Okay. Other thing you have to worry about with this too is eye relief, right? So when you shoulder the gun, where is the spot where you have the proper eye relief? Like if you mount it on and it's too close or it's too far, you gotta find that Goldilocks sweet spot right there in the middle where everything lines up, and you're not having to shift your head forward and back a bunch. You want your optic just mounted there correctly. So, and there's videos on that. There's something to consider when you're setting up your rifle. All right. So, optics, red dot. Next thing, ambi charging handle. I do believe you should have an ambi charging handle. For the next thing, preferably, I mean, you don't need one. All right, if you want to just skip that and go to the forward grip, that'd be fine. But ambi charging handle is nice because it extends it out, right? So when we're manipulating the gun, it's easy to grab that charging handle and rack it. If you had to give it to a lefty, or if for some reason you had to fight left-handed, like you had switch hands to go around a corner, instead of having switch hands back to do your immediate action and everything, you just tap and then rotate over, rack like that. It makes it real nice. And again, if you're teaching a lefty, having that charging handle is very nice. Again, with the regular charging handle, it's not something that's a big deal. You can still hook on it, that's fine. And if you're doing it lefty, 2 fingers, claw, and it works just fine too. But next thing is a forward grip, right? Now, if you have a legal rifle, you can have a vertical grip, like you see here. That's what I prefer. Now, there's a couple things we can use this for. Number one, it's a good reference point for where my hand should be in relation to the light. Also, when we're shooting, shooting on a barricade, right? I can shove this up against the barricade, or I can also use it as a point where, like, if the walls, if like a table's right here and I need to shoot over something just a little bit higher than where the barrel is, I can just stick my hand underneath it and raise my gun up just enough, right? You can do that with the magazine too, but sometimes you just don't have the space to work with it. But being able to jam this up against a barricade is very nice. The other thing too is that if you are trying to make your sling super tight, you can wrap your sling around that vertical grip, and it's going to be tighter than it will be normally when you have it tightened down all the way. That's also useful for when you want the gun super tight to your body, so you could work with your hands or climb or move or do whatever. Putting the sling around the vertical grip makes it even tighter. Now, again, that's with rifle, okay? If you have a legal definition pistol, they want you to have some sort of, you know, like a hand stop or like this, like an angled foregrip, but you can't have a vertical one on, otherwise it's a felony and all that shit. But these are fine too, okay? And it's nice to have them. I just don't prefer them, that's all. See, Wes has one on his rifle right here. Which works nicely. Nice big hand stop too. You could do the same sling thing with this. What is this one called?
It's the emissary handbrake.
Emissary handbrake.
I believe it works as an angled grip because you don't put your thumb behind it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you said it works as angled grip because you don't put your thumb behind it. I don't put my thumb behind the other ones, except for one thing we'll talk about. But this is good too. Biggest thing is reference point, and it does give you a little bit more leverage to pull the gun in. But you know, when he puts his hand here, he knows exactly what he has to do with his thumb to be able to hit that light, okay? And if he want to, he could wrap that sling around here too to tighten things up, and he could use this to jam up against a barricade when he's shooting. Now, other thing with the vertical grip too, the only time I really would put my thumb behind it is if you wanted to strike someone with the barrel, right? You just get a little bit more force with that. Anyways, that's about it. Now, with my AR-15s, I do not put brakes on them. I just use the A2 flash hider. But if you were putting brakes on it, that's fine. And just think about, you know, if you were to shoot that gun right next to someone's head, is that going to totally fuck them up? Like my AK, with this brake on it, that shorter barrel, that will fuck your day up if someone has to shoot this neck like close to you, right? It sounds ridiculous. When you put on a brake, it's going to make it more concussive and louder, and also you're introducing more flash potentially too. So that's something to consider. If you're going to run a silencer on it, yes, it is called a silencer, okay? If you want to get mad about that, go ahead, comment below. But then you got to consider which brake or flash hider you're putting on. And I would do like the same one on all the guns, so you can have the same one. You can use your can with all the different guns. But what, did I miss anything?
I think you got it all.
Alright, I think that's everything. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Any questions, anything we should go over specifically, please let us know below. You need to be subscribed to this channel, okay? Also, you need to like this video. If you disagree with anything, dislike the video and comment why. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you to everyone who's been buying our gear. Again, buy our rifle slings, buy our fanny packs and our backpacks and everything. Especially thank you to my students, and for my buddy Wes, one of my students, for letting me use his rifle for this, specifically to talk about the magnifier. Keep fighting communism, and remember that training saves lives. This is just setting up the gun, right? Get trained, get it somewhere. Alright, and just going to the range and shooting isn't training, that's shooting. Okay, go take a training class somewhere. Alright guys, take care.